G'day boys, Stem16 for this core addresses the area of complementary and alternative healthcare approaches, and this is an area that has grown considerably in Australia in the last few years. So you can see it's broken down into three little sub-dot points. The first dot point that we look at is this one here that I'm circling, which gives reasons for growth of this particular area. The second one is what are the actual products and services available. We examine those, just look at what they are and what they involve. And the third point is how someone would go about making an informed consumer choice. And that point is particularly relevant because if you look over here in this part of the syllabus, you will need to specifically be able to address questions such as how do you know who to believe and what do you need to help you make informed decisions. So obviously that third dot point relates specifically to this part of the syllabus. These first two dot points give you a bit of background to the area, and I have seen a number of multiple choice questions, particularly relating to the range of products and services that are actually available. So you need to make sure you're familiar with everything that is on this particular PowerPoint. We just can see here it's a $1 billion per year industry, and that's actually increasing. And as you can see with the first dot point, we actually need to look at why this area is actually growing. So we came up with around about 7 or 8 different reasons as to why this area is growing. So let's have a look at them now. So the reasons for the growth of this area, of what's known as the complementary and alternative health products and services area, are these ones. And you can see the first one there, not only are the public and the community into these alternative health services, but so are the actual doctors. Doctors are actually recommending that people go and use them as not as a replacement for traditional medicine, but for something that complements traditional medicine. Hence the name up the top here of complementary health products and services. Secondly, there's been a lot of new university courses that have been approved and developed. So as a result of that, there's a lot more people being trained in these particular areas. So they're specialists coming out of university with qualifications as opposed to sort of your backyard operators. As a result of these increased graduates or increased people with qualifications, the credibility of the alternative healthcare has improved significantly. And as I mentioned before, it used to sort of be backyard operators, people with no particular qualifications, but who believed they had a certain ability to perform certain things, not necessarily without qualifications, or not necessarily with qualifications. So as a result of people having qualifications, the credibility has really increased. A lot of people are anti-drug use these days. They prefer a more natural way of healing, and also a lot of people are aware of the downside to pharmaceutical use. So people are steering away from the traditional drug-based medication. Point 5 there, people are looking for a holistic approach to health, so this complements that most definitely. Also now patients are more educated and they're more aware of things, so they're more likely to question what doctors are telling them. So once upon a time, if a doctor said do something, you would go and do it. Nowadays, people are asking doctors to justify it and say, why shouldn't I try this method? So people, like I said, people are just more aware, they're more empowered with their knowledge, so they're more likely to go against what doctors say than they were in the past. Point 7, it's a preventative measure, which is in line with modern thinking in regards to health. So we want to try and prevent illness from happening rather than traditional medicine, which reacts to to illness that has occurred. And also, probably a very important point here, considering the last dot point we came off, was that private health insurers are actually recognising these natural therapies and putting them on their benefits list. So people are saying, well, if private health insurers are recognising these things, A, they must be pretty good and must be quite reputable, and B, if I'm going to get a refund for it, or a subsidy for it, why wouldn't I use them? So there's 8 reasons there, fellas, why there has been an increase in the use of complementary and alternative health products and services. Let's now move to look at what these products actually are. I'm not going to read through these, you can do that yourself. And they're pretty self-explanatory, but as I flick through the slides, just be aware that you need to know the name and what it does. Don't copy these slides out word for word, just cut straight to the point. I wanted to put all the detail on these slides so you get a good appreciation of what they are. but you don't need every single word here. Just be aware of the name of it and what they actually do. And we'll discuss this more in class. There's about 8 of them all up. So if you've got any questions in regards to them, you can certainly ask them in class. But like I said, you will need to, it's more than likely you'll get a multiple choice question somewhere along the line on alternative health services. So it will, those sort of questions will have a description of a particular healthcare or service, and you'll need to match that up with its correct title, which will be one of the multiple choice answers. So don't discard this area of the syllabus. Make sure that you know the different types of alternative healthcare. The last point, the last subdot point, which makes reference to the Students Learn To part of the syllabus, is the how to make informed consumer choices. And obviously out there are people who are trying to make a quick dollar from all sorts of products. So what you need to do as a consumer is be aware of that fact and be aware of what steps you need to undertake to try and ensure that you make a good choice and don't get ripped off. So what sorts of things should you do before you undertake an alternative or complementary health service? Look at the nature of the product or service. What is it trying to do? What is it claiming that it does? Does that sound realistic? Because as you're going to be told through this life, if something sounds too good to be true, then usually it is too good to be true. So look at what is it saying it'll do and how realistic is that. The second point, you need to look at the credibility of the product or the service. What benefits does it do? How effective is it? And when we talk about credibility, you look at what sort of success rate do they have. And when you're looking at how to find out that sort of information, look at who would be providing that information. Is that information something that's on their website, or is it based on an independent study done by an independent company? Do they have government approval? That sort of thing. Third thing you can look at is the qualifications and experience of the people who will be providing that service. Who are these people to be making these claims? What sort of qualifications do they have to back them up? Are they someone who has studied at university and has a lot of experience in a particular field, or are they someone who seems to have the gift of the gab and they're out to make a quick dollar and they don't have any relevant qualifications? So you need to check that out, that background info out first as well. And check out any recommendations from your friends. It's great if you can speak to people who actually have used the product, so for a first-hand account of how well that product works. Are there particular groups that endorse this product or service, or are there people that endorse the product or service? And if there are, who are they? What's their reputation? What's their motive behind endorsing the service? If it's just someone that gets paid a heap of money to do it, then that might not be as reliable as, say, the Australian Medical Association, which does not stand to gain any profit from promoting a certain product. Just to wrap up, you as a consumer need to be aware of the laws and that you have the right to complain. There are avenues for consumers to complain to the Department of Fair Trading and places like that. So that is STEM16 in a nutshell. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Thanks. Bye.